Well, hello, my name's Ralph and welcome back to the channel. It's my time, let's go. I got a lot of things on my plate, but I'm thinking what I'm going to do today is I want to make a little jig for pressing the valve guides out of a twin cam head. Now they can be hard to get out, and I have heard of guys trying to beat them out from the inside like you would with a shovel head or something and cracking the boss. And I spoke to a good friend of mine, Dave Lynn, who suggested that I make myself a stand to hold this and press them in and out, and that way you get a better chance of keeping them straight and not putting, not beating and pounding on them, because they are, they are quite small up here at the top, and you can easily break them. And I have on an Evolution broke them before. So I'm going to try this method. I'm going to start out with a little piece of pipe I cut off and I faced off. It's about 4.5 inches. And I've got a nice big heavy piece of plate here, and what I'm going to do is weld that onto there. I'm going to make some inserts that will be cut right and tapered to fit into these holes so the head can sit on it and keep things straight in line. That's the plan. That's what I'm hoping for. So I'm going to got a piece of aluminum. I'm going to turn down some little pieces and see if I can make something that will fit in there properly and fit onto my piece of pipe. So removable, of course, so that I can use it for different applications for the intake and the exhaust. So I think I'll try and turn my little pieces to go in there, and then I'll show you what I got. All right. Now we'll just get just a little tiny bit more. That should do it. There we go. That should do it. Well, this should flat part fit right into the seat, and then our tapered edge will fit into the seat, and this will go fit inside of the seat. So that looks pretty good there. So I'm going to take it over and try it. Okay, we just got to turn the outside of this down, and we want to leave it so that there's enough meat on it there to fit down into this piece of pipe. All right, we'll cut a little more off of this. So now we got to drill our through hole. Now the valve guides are only like just a hair over ½ inch, so I got a 5/8 drill to put a hole in it. And I might go one more size just to be safe. Not making it super tight there. 11/16 should be big enough. And there we go. Okay. Now what we've got to do is bore a shouldered hole so that this will fit right up inside of there. And I'm going to clean this off some first before I size it so that I get a nice tight fit right in the middle. But before I do that, I think I'm going to cut a little bit off the top. And now I'm just going to cut some off the outside because it doesn't have to be that big by any means. All right. All right. Now, I have to put this in and counterbore it this size. This to slide in there. We gotta do it a bit by the looks of it. So we'll get that set up. Should be enough. Go. That's what I'm looking for. Now I pretty well gonna take this piece, weld it to the plate, take it over and try it and see where we're at. So we've got our piece here. It should go right in there without any interference. Looks good. So we'll weld the flat plate to this. And then we can turn the head over and put it in the press and hopefully press that guide right out. So I'm going to take it over and mark it and tack it on the plate. See if it'll work. That's a nice flat square piece of plate, expensive plate. The piece costs about $40, but that should do it with exactly what we need. Just let it cool down a little bit, then we'll try it. So we're getting near the end of the day, but we haven't got our little thing complete. We're a little snug there now that things have cooled down. That's okay. That's what we want it, nice and snug to fit in there. We should be able to take our head, set it right in there like that, and then I'll be able to put it in press and press that straight out through. It's going to work just fine, just fine. I'm going to make a mandrel a little bit shorter than this to press instead of that big long one. Yeah, as soon as the pressure's on it, it's going to square up there. Look straight. I always like it when I get another tool. I'll have to make one for the exhaust port, but I don't need to replace the guides in that. Right now I need one for the intake port, and if that's going to work, I know what I got to do just to make another one for the other port, but pretty slick. So I think it'll work good. So, get myself washed up. You're the old lady calling me. It's time for supper. I'll see you tomorrow. So we're back at it today here now, and we've got, I've turned myself out a little arbor for pressing the guides out. So my little guide will go on that, and I should be able to press that right out through the head. This area, of course, is smaller than the guide. You set it up like that, fit that on in place. I should be able to press that right straight out through without any problem. All this have to do is be brave, put it in there. Let's see what happens. All right, we got her in place. Get that there. There we are. So, that worked just the way it's supposed to. Pull the top off it. Out comes my guide. And we'll put the other one in there. Get it ready to go. There is a little seal, so to speak, around here, a little rubber seal. So we're just going to take our countersink and just countersink the hole a little bit there. Give room for the seal to go down inside there and not just be completely squashed out. So I've just got a small countersink on here. And we're just gonna touch that a little bit. So I know you're probably not gonna be able to see it, but we've just chamfered this hole just a little bit just to take the sharp edge off it so that the O-ring can seat down in there. So I'm getting ready to press it in there, and I'm putting a little brake fluid on it so it's slippery. And I've kind of tapped it in just a little bit of a ways, and look down in through underneath, and I know it's very hard to see, but I've kind of got the guide centered up in the hole as best I can. Try to give me a chance. It should follow the hole anyway, but that'll kind of give me a chance to see that I am straight as I can be to start with. So center it up here. Here we are. Now she's in there the way she should be. Appears to have followed the hole nice and straight. So I feel good about that. So I've got it in there. It seems like it's followed the hole nice and straight. It won't really know till I start putting the arbor in there and start cutting. But it seems to have gone in there good without too much trouble. And I'm pressed down past, just to the shoulder is flattened out on the O-ring is sitting in the groove. All right, so I'm gonna go along and do the other one, and then we'll start cutting the valves. So we got the one in. I'm gonna work away and try to get the other one in here. I'm sure that guys have a lot of suggestions, and like I said, I made this setup here. I didn't have it to do twin cams, and a friend of mine, Dave Lind, who's extraordinary, he does extraordinary head work with the flow bench and stuff. It's just beyond me, and it was nice enough to give me a few tips on what to set up and make this tool. So thank you very much, Dave. And I don't know how much I'll use it, but you never know. It was fun making it and seeing it work. So I'm using your little tip there to put some brake fluid on it, and I've chamfered the holes out there. I can't just put it in the press. Don't really feel good about it that way. I found by looking down the hole, if I just started it a little bit, there, we're getting close there now. That's looking pretty well centered as I can get it in the hole. There we go. So it's pretty well centered in the hole. I feel good about that. And I got to tap just lightly there. I'm gonna stick it in there, press it in. All right. I can kind of see by turning it. Go. So we're fixing these heads up, and they're not great big power heads and things like that that you have to worry about your flow and all those sort of things. So what we're going to do is we're going to go with the stock springs in it because they're set up for the stock springs. Now I'm going through and I'm checking the tension on the springs to see what they're like and see if they're all the same. We'll do some pressure checks on them as well, but what I'm doing right now is I want to figure out the installed height. Spring collars, and we're just going to put it in the vise. Make sure you get it down there far enough so it won't spring out. Turn the top so you got something to hook into. There we go. Take them till they're compressed. No need to crank them right in. All right. I think we got it measured up here now. There is a bit of discrepancy. I'm just gonna do my calculations here, and then I'll have a look at it. So now I think I got all my calculations done here for my heads and seeing where the springs are at. I'm gonna check some spring pressures, you know, and stick some shims in there and check them at the valve heights and see what the pressure is that I'm actually getting. That'll just bring them up to even spring pressures, spring heights, and hopefully pressures all the way across the range. So I'm gonna go now and I'm gonna start checking some of these springs to see just exactly how much pounds per square inch they are at the called for installed height, which we've calculated out. This will give us enough clearance, according to the lift, to be 560 lift, and these are only 509s in here. I've actually calculated it out for 510s because he's put a 96 kit on it, or 97, whatever it is. So he may like to step the cams up a little bit. You know, he's that type of guy, so I'll make sure that everything's clearanced and good to step up to those. But they're pretty well a bolt in anyway. Okay, so I'm going to go and start checking the spring pressures. see what kind of pressure we get. And then we get it centered up in here. So we're checking another one, about 110 pounds. So we're around 110 pounds at 180. So that's what we're gonna go for all of them. So we'll check the rest and then we'll move on. So it might be a little bit overkill there, not all necessary, but you know, he's putting the head in. Like I say, he may change cams or think he wants a little more and such. So we might as well have the heads done and sort of ready for that, should he decide to go that way. So you gotta remember that twin cams is two cams, two little cams on little needle bearings, things like that. They're not on bigger, like a bigger single cam and stuff, you know, although it still has a needle bearing, but it has a bushing in the other end supporting it. You know, and the chains and all that stuff in there. So the more load you put on all of that gear, you know, the cams and everything, the pressures and stuff that are on that, is sometimes unnecessary. Now, I did have a set of springs that he brought me, and I checked them out, and at you know, 1.8, they were pushing like 180 pounds, 175, 180 pounds. And I don't have the right collars for them, so I don't really know what their collars were to be used with them, but if I was to use the regular ones, that's what you'd have. And 180 pounds in a regular sort of twin cam, slamming it up into the head all the time, harder when it's closing, more pressure to open it. It's just really not necessary, and really, I don't think going to gain anything in this situation at all. So, you know, if you want to put a set of high performance springs in, have a look at them and have a look at the pressures and think about what you're dealing with. But like I say, with a 509 or 510 cam, you're fine with what's in them, and that's why it's a bolt-in cam, as far as I know. So now we got to get the rest of the heads done and get them cleaned up. So now that we get those kind of things done, the next thing is going to be to size our valve guides out. And I have a small hone like this for doing it. Now you can use a sun and hone such as I have, or you know, for the guy that's doing it himself, you can buy a reamer that's exactly the right size that you need for your application. But I've used these for a long time and they work well. So I've got a little piece in the vise here, and it's just a round hole, so to speak, and it comes with the kit. And what it does is allow you to put the arbor through it. Just snug it up a little bit. And what that does is make sure that our little fine stone in here is running perfectly straight, and it's not, you know, cocked like this or like that. So we know that when we put it into the valve guide, it's going to run right. A measurement here with my telescoping gauges, little ball gauge, and that will give me an idea of where I'm at right now. It's 310. So right now, we're just about the size of the valve itself, but it won't go in there. I've also got a little go and no-go gauge, it's called, with a bunch of little gauges that I have, and we're set here on 311 thou, which is a thou bigger than the valve, and this one is set on 310.5. So I can use this as I'm sizing, and I know that I'm getting very close, and then to be very careful how much farther I go. So let's stick it in and see if we can begin to get it out to size. So I'm just going to start with some light cuts. Just going to get that down in there so it fits. So I had to get my other drill out and a little bit of sauce onto it and just go slowly to get it out to where I wanted to get it. But now I think we have it. We went by our red gauge at first, and as it started to be able to go in, I knew I was close. It was only a 1/2 thousandth of an inch bigger, and our one here, our valves are 310 thou, so 311 here, which will just slide in there nicely. And you also want to make sure that you're not tapering down, so you can take the same gauge or measurement and do it from the inside as well. And that should go right down in there just as that is. So I know that I'm the right fit there. everything. She only likes to go one way. There we go. Clean that out. Take our valve. And it will just fall in the hole. If you want to know you got a good seal, what you can do is put your finger over this hole on the bottom and just pull your valve back, and you'll feel a suction in there, or trying to push it out like compression as you move it back and forth, and then you know you've got a nice fit there on that. So we're going to go with that. Follow that one. Just going to go along and do the other one and get it ready, and then we'll probably start to cut the seats. Okay. A little bit of cutting fluid on it. Honing oil is what I use there. Just starting to get her there. A little bit tight down towards the bottom. It's always tighter where it's pressed in. So. Take your time. Way through yet. Take a shot from the other side. Almost 10.5 in there. Clean the stone. A little bit of oil. Okay. 10.5's going in. And the 11 just starting to. Check the bottom. 10.5's in. The 11's just a little bit snug. We've always got to clean the grid out, because that will screw it up. Right, that one's feeling good. I think one more, just a little touch on it. Will be where I want to be. Again, can't be fooled by a little bit of grit in there. There we go. And that's our 11 now in there. It's just exactly what we want. And in from the bottom as well. You say the valve fits in there nice now. Nice fit. Now just gonna get some of this stuff put away, get my stuff out for cutting the seats, and go ahead and start cutting them. So now we've got our new way cutters out for cutting our different angles, and I'm just gonna try a cut along the. I've tried one on the far downside, bottom, and we're cutting around. So this will kind of give me an idea of where we're at. See if my blades are out far enough. This gives me a really good idea if I'm if the valve guide has gone in straight. If it was off a little bit or something, I'd be cutting to one side. And as you can see, we're getting a nice ring around there now, around the outside, the 31-degree cut, and it's nice and even all the way around. So I'm pretty pleased with that. Now I'll clean that out and I'll put a little bit of bluing on the seat, and then I'll cut my outside one and my inside one, and then I can see where my 46-degree one is for my valve seat. Same thing, I'll take a cut on the outside to have a look. There we go, we got a nice seat around there now. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put some bluing on it, and we'll let that one dry. So I'm just finishing up cutting the exhaust ones now, and they're cleaning up quite nice. And all three angles cleaned up pretty nice in there. Hard to see, it's this one here. And then I'll cut the other ones with the bluing and give you a shot to show you what's going on there. So I've taken a couple cuts there, and I'll try to give you an eyeball on it, but it's hard to see, and there it really is. But you can see where the blue is still showing, and there's a shiny cut above it and a shiny cut below it. The blue is our 45-degree angle. Do our 31 on the outside. Just enough to clean up the bluing. And we'll take a little cut in the bottom. But you can see that there's a blue spot in between the two shiny surfaces, the upper and the lower. And that's what we're trying to get at. That's our 45. So I just need to take my 45 cut for my valve. And these heads will be good to go. That should just clean that right up. And there we are. Nice three angles in there. Looks good. Now we just really have to lap our valves in and getting a good seat there. And we're just trying to get a nice little ring around it up from the bottom. So we kept working it a little bit and moving it up. So I know it's hard to see, but that's what we're looking for there. All right. So now it's the end of the day there, but I threw these things in the cabinet there and just cleaned out the holes and all the grime that was in there in the combustion chamber and stuff. He didn't want to bother with getting the heads blasted off and taking the time to do it, so that he's just going to paint them black so he can do that himself. But we've got everything ready to go. The heads are all clean, they've been Versoled, they've been washed out with hot soapy water, and so they're ready to start putting together. We've also washed out all of our parts, all of our springs and everything like that, so everything's clean. And then I come in tomorrow morning and start assembling, checking a few clearances and start putting them together. So I should have them done by tomorrow, I hope. Weekend's coming, so we'll keep at it until we get it. All right, that's it for today. So now we've got all our valve calculations done, and we've checked the spring pressures and such with it. And now we're just going to set it up in our heads. Now we have this little type of tool here, and it's a micrometer of sorts, and we can put it in here and measure the distance from the top of the bottom collar to the bottom of the top collar in there. In other words, in between our spring. And that will give us, the measurement that we're looking for. So we just kind of slide this in here. Collars are locked, there we go. And we just turn it. 830 on this gauge. And I know that I've measured that and pre-measured this gauge, not necessarily going by the numbers, so I want to measure it outside and inside just to make sure. So, and that's going to give us room for like 1.80 or 1.790, give or take 0.10 of an inch in there. That's going to give us a constant same spring pressure as all the others. And we do have a small shim under that one, just to spring up the pressure. So we'll put that with our valve. 1.80 right on the money there. So it pays to sometimes, double check the measurements of your gauge so you know where it's going and that the measurements are true. And I know from using these over a period of time that they're not right on the money, so I double check and get what my measurement I want here, and then I can go from there. So we're all set there. I didn't check the valve stem protrusion, but I expect that it's about 15 thousandths of an inch, maybe more on these ones. They're a little bit longer valve stem protrusions, so it makes sense for the small shim to go in there underneath that. But now we should have them all at pretty even pressures across the board, and I feel good about that. So we've done some of our calculations here to figure out where we're going with it. We're running about 110 pound average on the springs, and you can see from these measurements our open spring height when they're installed on there are running pretty close. These here are the thousandths of an inch, 10 thousandths, and I'm a little bit over on this one, so we'll put a little shim under that and bring it in. But they're not looking too bad, and that's where we're going. There's always a little bit of discrepancy and variance when you're working with different things like that, and the more high performance you get, the more critical it becomes. But for everyday street use, as long as we're getting it in the ballpark there, to 5-10 thousandths of an inch is nothing there. It's just okay. To get your pressures right. Having them all even pressures and nice is the main thing. So I feel confident about that. This motor should run good. So we'll go ahead and put it together.
If you want your bike to scream, then your heads need to be clean. From valve spring heights to cam lift specs, this is where you can't guess. If I can't breathe, it can't make power. And if I miss these points, it can make you sour. 3-angle valve jobs will make it right, and you will be screaming through the night. Make it clean, make it scream, make it your own fine dream machine. Make it power by the hour, it's your ride that you devour. Make it clean, make it scream, make it your own fine dream machine. Make it power by the hour, it's your ride that you devour. That you devour. Yeah.
So that's what got them together, and everything seems to be good. So it's a bit of dicking around, a bit of extra stuff. Most things you can do pretty quickly, but I like to fool around with stuff, so I know they're good to go now. All right. So if you enjoyed this video today, like, subscribe, comment, ring the bell, do those kind of things. It helps us to grow. If you haven't checked out my buddies down south, check them out. Hippie's Chopper Corner and Slick Ed's Custom Cycles. I don't know what we got on our plate for next week. We'll see how it's coming along, but everybody have a great holiday season through the things and into the new year, and hopefully it brings us a more joyous year than the past year. So we're always hoping for better things. All right, I'll see you next week.